Hello everybody, Matrix Breaker back again with another narrated video. So I'm going to try and do something quite complicated here. I'm running a PowerPoint presentation and I'm talking over it at the same time, so it requires a bit of multi-skilling, which isn't my strong point. So let's have a go. So I'm going to look in this one at the Airbus A380, an absolutely fantastic aeroplane, no doubt about it. Whatever technology it runs on, it's an engineering marvel. But what I'm going to ask, and I'm looking at this in terms of the weight and the structure of the wings, does it really hold 255 tons of aviation fuel? And each wing has around 100 tons of fuel in it. So they pump it in there and they take off with all that fuel in those wings. Now, can they actually support that kind of weight? Well, I'm going to try and question that and a few other things. So let's press on anyway. Okay, so clearly dimensions, truly awesome. 240 feet long, total span of around about 261 feet from wingtip to wingtip. So pretty enormous. And we've got to squeeze into those wings 100 ton each side of fuel, and we're going to put a load of fuel in the horizontal stabilizer at the back, but I'm not looking at that in this video, I'm just looking at the wings. Okay, so when we look at a photograph and we put those dimensions on, this will help make it clear. So we're looking at, I've put the wing wheels and I've measured the distance from the wing wheels to the end of the wing, because effectively what we have there is we have a pretty big cantilever, 110 feet of it to be precise. So all that weight is being anchored down by the weight of the plane to the right of it, and the wing structure is having to take that weight from basically that pivot point where the wing wheel is. So all the fuel, all the engines are going to have to be supported. So for a thin structure, you'll see that is quite some weight. So but you can see the dimensions, as I said, 261 feet from wingtip to wingtip. So that's pretty awesome stuff. So let's have the next slide up and see what that one says. So this is the fuel system. So this is a great breakdown that I managed to find for the A380's fuel system and where the tanks are. So you can see at the top here, so this is where I need a bit of multi-skilling. Here's the pointer. So we've got the weight, and I'm working in kilograms and referring to metric tons, which is this divided by 1,000. So 8 to 60 kilograms is 8.26 metric ton. So we've got the outer tanks here. This is towards the end of the wing, moving away from the outer engine. Then we've got the feed tanks. So we've got 8.25 tons, 22 tons approximately in the feed tank, which is just inside the outer engine. Then we've got mid tanks here, 28.6 ton. Then we've got the inner tank, which is 36.2, and the feed tanks, which is 23.03 ton. So that's in both of these tanks here. Now what I've done is I've drawn a line to where the wing wheel is, and I've worked out how much weight is to the actual from that wing wheel to the outer tip, and I've looked at it in terms of fuel and engine. So I've taken 2/3, which is approximation, but it's pretty accurate, for the total of the feed tank and the inner tank. So here's the breakdown. So we can see we've got a total amazing weight from that wheel on that cantilever to the end of the wing of 98.33 tons, metric tons. So approximately 100 metric tons of fuel we're going to pump into that wing, and it's going to have to take that weight, and it's going to have to keep the outer engine from clattering to the floor. So pretty strong stuff to do that. But let's have a look at a few more figures. So this is just another side. This is showing the tanks on the A380. And what I want to bring now, if these tanks are full, then the fuel is going to stay where it's supposed to. Let's imagine it's halfway through the flight and we're down to half empty. Now we've got what is essentially a great big pan of fuel. So when this plane banks left or banks right, all the fuel is say this wing comes up, this wing goes down, it's going to run to the ends of these tanks, which will be towards the middle. So it's reducing the leverage force or the leverage force on that wing. As this one drops, all the fuel is going to run this way and collect in the ends of these tanks. It's actually going to increase the lever force this way, and then that's going to swing the plane out, make it unstable. If it swings it back, it's going to swing all the fuel back the other way. So it seems to be something that's going to create a lot of instability to me, a bit like trying to carry a large tray of water around and stop it flopping off one end or the other. So that kind of analogy. So now this is the plane. I'm going to put some weight. So I'm calling this the pivot point for the cantilever. We've got a Trent 900 engine, 6.25 tonne. That's 8.57 metres away. We've got the second engine, same weight, same size, 19.5 metres away, and we've got the total wing from the wheel of 33.65. Now we've got the fuel, the inner tank and feed tank, the mid tank, the feed tank and the outer tank. So total fuel 98.3. If we add the engines, that's 110 kilograms. Sorry, 110 tonnes, nearly 111 tonnes, and that's like putting 2 Abraham battle tanks on the wings. So if we look at the kind of moment, this is the torque that weights, and we take the centre of each tank, which is approximation, but it's there and thereabouts, we can see that it adds up to a total moment or torque of 1,230 tonne metres. Now, a large construction tower crane that may be used to build a big skyscraper will take about 300 tonne metres. So that wing is actually doing the work. It's carrying out, it's supporting a total moment of around 4 large tower cranes. Now that is some achievement with a flimsy aluminium wing. So let's have another look now at what we need to do in industry and around the world when we're trying to support 100 tonnes, which is what that cantilever is doing. Here's a few examples of how big a 100-tonne gantry is. So that wing is achieving what these things can achieve. I'm starting to rest my case a little bit already, but let's move on. So this is a video of a A380 taking off. I just want to show the wing flex and how the wing moves around and the end picks up as the velocity increases and the lift force increases. So it's sped up to about 6.5 times normal speed. So you can see the wingtip coming up, so how far that's moved. Now it's still coming up, almost full lift, and up we come. And you can see it wobbling around like mad, going up and down. So a lot of flexibility in there. And yes, it will support the plane in flight. It's got a pretty even match in terms of area to force upwards, so it will hold it. But on the ground, it's got to compensate and hold all that fuel. I won't say gravity, but I'll say the force, the ground force that it has to cope with. But you can see a bit of turbulence, wings flopping about, engines moving up and down. So I'm starting to, something squealing out at me here that something isn't right. So what I've done here is I've tried to find a plane that's landed, so it'll be low fuel, and a plane that is about to take off. Tried to get a similar photo orientation, front on's best, and this one is an A380 that's flown, I think, from Paris to Rio. So this is on the ground at Rio, so fairly obvious where it is. So this will be a low fuel load. And I found this on some aviation photograph site, and this is an Air France A380 that's ready for takeoff, ready to fly back from Tokyo to Paris, so absolutely full of fuel. So what I've done now is I've overlaid, well, I've put the two images together, I've sized them so they're the same. I've used the centre point of the engines to line them up, and I'm going to overlay the one at the bottom, which is the heavy one, and the one at the top, which is the light one. So I've used PowerPoint to do this, but I made a little movie, so let's just hope it works. Okay, so I'm just going to drag this one up. I'm dragging it up using those guidelines. I'm going to overlay it. So put the engines together so the engines match up perfectly. Curve the wing, you could argue there's a slight deflection here, but tiny. But 110 tonne, sorry, 98 tonne of fuel in there, and the wings have hardly moved. The engines line up. Oh, come on, there's something that's beyond, I can't comprehend that. I feel I'm having the wool pulled over my eyes. It makes no sense at all. So you can see that for yourself, a full one and empty one. By all means, go away, try and find some photographs, overlay them. I think you'll find a similar effect. I watched Airbus A320 loading up. The whole plane does sink because of the weight of the people going on, and it rests on the undercarriage suspension. But I watched it being refueled, and the wing didn't budge at all during the refuel process. So anyway, you can do that yourself. I'll let you look at that. So I'm going to make a few conclusions now and end this video. So lovely photograph of the A380. I don't think there's any fuel in those wings. I can't see that those lightweight flexible construction could cantilever over 1,200 tonne metres of moment in there and carry 100 tonne of fuel. If there was fuel in there, I think the fuel slopping around in the long flat tray-like tanks would cause massive instability. I think there is fuel put in. I think it's put into the wing points. It runs down a pipe into a small or much smaller fuel tank that is centrally located where the centre of gravity of the plane is, to give it the stability it needs. And I think these planes use very, very little fuel, maybe a tenth of what they say, and there's some technology there that we aren't told about that makes these things ultra efficient, and we're being conned. These things do not have that amount of fuel in them. Some brilliant videos out there. QNF's done one, Adam IFE's done one. I will put a few links to some of the great videos that are out there in the description. The other thing I'll say is maybe those engines don't weigh 6.25 tons. That's 4 times the weight of my car, and they're supposed to be built with light, strong titanium. And what are the motives? Well, clearly there's money involved, because they're selling us tickets based on how much fuel they're using. So basically they're selling air to us. But there's another thing behind this, and I have looked into it to some extent, but I will look into it in detail in the future, and that is called the oil hoax. Lots and lots of hoax code. If you read up on the performance, the amount of fuel that these big Airbuses carry. Now, whatever technology they use, they are awesome, and they are engineering marvels, and hats off to the people that build them. But lots and lots of liquid fuel, it's a hoax, I'm sorry to say. Well, pleased to say, at least we're trying to find out. So thank you. You'll hear more from me in the future. Bye bye.